In the hallowed halls of justice, we expect drama. But what happened in Judge Marlon B. Stevens' courtroom went beyond anything Hollywood could script. This is the story of a lawyer whose courtroom antics crossed a line so egregiously that the judge delivered a verdict that left everyone absolutely stunned. Let's rewind and see how a routine case turned into a legendary legal showdown. The case seemed straightforward enough: dispute between neighbors over a property line. On one side, we had the plaintiff, a quiet, elderly woman named Mrs. Gable. On the other, the defendant, a wealthy developer represented by a hotshot lawyer, Mr. Harrison. Harrison had a reputation for being aggressive, a win-at-all-costs kind of attorney, but no one, not even his opponents, could have predicted how far he would go this time. The trial began like any other. Opening statements were made, and the first few witnesses were called. Harrison was in his element, pacing, objecting, and using his sharp tongue to poke holes in the plaintiff's testimony. Judge Stevens, a seasoned jurist known for his calm demeanor and strict adherence to protocol, watched patiently, occasionally overruling an objection or gently reminding Harrison to stay on point. The tension in the room was palpable, but still within the bounds of normal courtroom procedure. The first sign of trouble came during the cross-examination of Mrs. Gable. She was a frail woman, clearly nervous about being on the stand. Harrison approached her not with the respect one might expect, but with the predatory circling of a shark. He started by questioning her memory, peppering her with rapid-fire questions about dates and times from years ago. Mrs. Gable, flustered, struggled to keep up. Her lawyer objected. "Your Honor, counsel is badgering the witness." Judge Stevens sustained the objection. "Mr. Harrison, please allow the witness to answer. Lower your voice and step back." Harrison offered a smirk and a mock bow. "Apologies, Your Honor. I was just trying to jog the witness's memory, which seems to be selective." The comment drew a sharp glare from the judge, but he let it slide, a decision he would later regret. As the cross-examination continued, Harrison's tactics became increasingly personal and cruel. He brought up Mrs. Gable's late husband, implying he was a man of questionable character. He twisted her words, making her sound confused and unreliable. The jury shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Mrs. Gable was visibly distressed, her hands trembling as she clutched a tissue. Her lawyer was on his feet constantly, objecting to Harrison's line of questioning. "Relevance, Your Honor. Argumentative. Assumes facts not in evidence." Judge Stevens sustained most of the objections, his voice growing firmer with each ruling. "Mr. Harrison, I am warning you. This is not a stage for theatrics. Confine your questions to the facts of this case." But Harrison was like a runaway train. He seemed to relish the judge's warnings, treating them as a challenge rather than a command. He saw a weakness in Mrs. Gable's emotional state and was determined to exploit it until she broke down completely. He believed that if he could discredit her in front of the jury, the case was his. This was his fatal miscalculation. He underestimated the judge. The breaking point came with a single, outrageous question. After a long, grueling session of picking apart her testimony, Harrison paused for dramatic effect. He walked right up to the witness stand, leaned in close, and in a voice dripping with contempt, he asked, "Mrs. Gable, isn't it true that you're only pursuing this lawsuit because you're a lonely, bitter old woman who has nothing better to do with her time?" The courtroom fell into a stunned silence. You could hear a pin drop. Mrs. Gable gasped, tears finally streaming down her face. Her lawyer shot up, his face red with fury. "Objection, Your Honor! That is outrageous, unprofessional, and completely uncalled for." But before he could even finish his sentence, Judge Stevens slammed his gavel down. It wasn't just a tap. It was a thunderous crack that echoed through the entire room, making everyone jump. The judge, who had been the picture of calm, was now visibly enraged. His face was a mask of cold fury. He stood up, his towering presence commanding absolute attention. "Mr. Harrison," he began, his voice dangerously low and steady, approached the bench. Harrison, for the first time, seemed to realize he might have gone too far. The smirk was gone, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. He slowly walked toward the judge, his usual swagger completely absent. When Harrison reached the bench, Judge Stevens leaned forward, speaking just loud enough for the court reporter and the lawyers to hear, though his anger was clear to everyone. "Have you lost your mind, counsel? Have you no shred of decency? There's no respect for this court, for the witness, or for the very profession you represent." Harrison began to stammer an apology, "Your Honor. I was simply trying to silence." The judge boomed, cutting him off. "I have had enough. You have spent this entire trial mocking the rules of evidence, disrespecting a vulnerable witness, and turning this courtroom into your personal circus. This is not a game. This is a place of law and justice, concepts you seem to have forgotten." The judge then turned to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to disregard Mr. Harrison's last question, and frankly, his entire disgraceful performance. It has no place in a court of law." He then looked back at the stunned lawyer. "Mr. Harrison, your behavior has been so egregious, so far beyond the pale of acceptable conduct, that it has irrevocably tainted these proceedings." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. What came next, nobody saw coming. "In all my years on the bench," Judge Stevens declared, his voice ringing with authority, "I have never witnessed such a flagrant and intentional abuse of the legal process. Your actions have not only harmed the witness, but have also made a fair trial for the plaintiff impossible." He took a deep breath. "Therefore, under the inherent powers of this court to sanction conduct that undermines the integrity of the judicial system, I am issuing a directed verdict." A collective gasp swept through the courtroom. A directed verdict. It's an extremely rare move where a judge ends a trial and decides the outcome without letting the jury deliberate. Usually because one side's evidence is overwhelmingly weak. But issue one as a sanction for a lawyer's misconduct? It was almost unheard of. Harrison's jaw dropped. He stood there, speechless. "Your Honor, you can't be serious," he finally managed to say. "I have never been more serious in my life," the judge retorted. "Judgment is hereby entered for the plaintiff, Mrs. Gable. The property line will be established as per her surveyor's report. Furthermore, all legal fees for the plaintiff will be paid by you, Mr. Harrison, personally. By your firm, not by your client. By you." The judge wasn't finished. "And as for your conduct, I am holding you in contempt of court. You will be fined $10,000 and referred to the state bar for disciplinary action. My strongest recommendation for a lengthy suspension of your license to practice law." He slammed the gavel one last time. This court is adjourned. The entire room was frozen in disbelief. Judge Stevens swept out of the courtroom, his black robes billowing behind him. Mrs. Gable sat in the witness box, sobbing. But this time, there were tears of relief and vindication. The lawyer rushed to her side, patting her shoulder, a look of pure astonishment on his face. The jury members just looked at each other, their expressions a mix of shock and, for some, approval. And Mr. Harrison? He just stood there, pale and defeated, as a bailiff approached him. The high-flying lawyer who thought he was above the rules had just been brought crashing down to earth by a judge who refused to let justice be mocked. The story of Judge Stevens's instant verdict became a legend in legal circles. It served as a powerful reminder that while lawyers are expected to be zealous advocates for their clients, there is a line of decency, professionalism, and respect for the rule of law. And if you cross that line, justice can be swift, unexpected, and absolute. What do you think? Did the judge go too far? Or did the lawyer get exactly what he deserved? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story of courtroom justice, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more. We'll see you next time.